Senator Kamala Harris on The View yesterday, and Meghan McCain asked her stance about the idea of defund the police.
Yeah, after Kamala's detailed answer, viewers slammed Meghan for seemingly being unprepared for the interview when Kamala asked her to clarify her question. Check it out.
Do you support defunding and removing police from American communities? And if not, why do you think there's such a hard time being differentiated right now between defunding and reforming police departments?
So, Megan, I think that a big part of this conversation really is about reimagining how we do public safety in America, which I support, which is this. We have confused the idea that to achieve safety, you put more cops on the street. Instead of understanding to achieve safe and healthy communities, you put more resources into the public education system of those communities, into affordable housing, into home ownership, into access to capital for small businesses, access to health care regardless of how much money people have. That's how you achieve safe and healthy communities. And so we really do need to understand and reimagine what and how we can actually make and help make communities safe. You know, in many cities in America, over 1/3 of their city budget goes to police. When I talk to law enforcement, they know that they don't want to be, nor are they skilled to be the ones who are responding to someone with mental illness or substance abuse or the homeless population. But in many cities, that's what's happening because we are not directing those resources, those public resources, to where they need to go, which is addressing mental health, homelessness, substance abuse, so that we don't have to have a police response because we are smarter.
Senator, I hear you loud and clear, and I don't think there's any rational American right now who doesn't think that we need to take a cold, hard look at reforming our police. But there was a video that went viral over the weekend of the mayor of Minneapolis being yelled at saying, yes or no question, are you for defunding the police? So I'm going to ask the same question the protesters asked him. Are you for defunding the police?
How are you defining defund the police?
Well, I'm not for anything remotely for that, so I would ask the protesters the same thing. But I assume and again, this is something that is new to me, I assume it's removing police, and as Congresswoman Ilhan Omar said, bringing in a whole new way of governing and a law and order into a community. And my understanding, again, this is something that has just come into my understanding recently, is that you would not have police officers, like this Minneapolis City Councilwoman said, that I would be a place of privilege if someone broke into my home and I wanted to call the police.
So, again, we need to reimagine how we are achieving public safety in America. And to have cities where 1/3 of their entire budget is going to policing, but yet there is a dire need in those same cities for mental health resources, for resources going into public schools, resources going into job training and job creation. Come on, we have to be honest about this, that there is actually not a consensus around this, because if there were, we would actually see smarter distribution of resources in our country.
Okay, so Meghan was trending on Twitter, getting slammed for her stumble. So Meghan tweeted a 6-point response. So she says, number one, it is not my job to explain the radical policies of the left most Americans are confused by. Number two, if defund actually means reform, why are you saying defund? And number three, Ilhan Omar is calling to completely dismantle the police department because it is a cancer rotten to its core.
Yeah, and in a second tweet, she continued, 4, I think we should be having as many conversations as possible about real police reform, and almost every American I know wants this. 5, I'm happy to listen to anyone, talk to anyone who wants a respectful dialogue. And 6, her final point was, I am never unprepared ever on our show. It's my job.
Yeah, so Ryguy says it's not a matter of her being unprepared. It's the chip on her shoulder that she has toward Democrats or the way she comes across. Someone else says that Meghan does seem a little bit unprepared for the interview. We are going to talk about defund the police in the next topic. We are going to talk. Do you think Meghan seemed unprepared in that?
Well, at least for me, I feel like Meghan in general, when she's speaking to somebody from the opposite party, there is always like an undertone that is kind of in her speaking and the way that she interviews. I root for Kamala, but even the way Kamala was talking, it was a little muddy. It wasn't like she was very clear and articulate in her point. It almost felt like it was like hella early and both of them were tired. That's the vibe I got. Because I was like, huh? I was listening literally like, wait, I literally had to play back 3 times because I was like, what are they talking about? It's so muddy.
Yeah, I don't think that the subject matter has anything to do with that. I think that every single conversation that Kamala Harris and Meghan McCain would have about anything would end this way, and it would sound this exact same way. They just don't have that thing. There is no rapport between the two of them, and everything is contentious. Normally in a conversation, I don't think Kamala Harris would have asked the person she's talking to define a very specific point about a very specific thing that in general we sort of all get. But the two of them, this is what they do, and it's these conversations. And I know that that on shows like this, you sort of want to get both sides, but I don't know if putting Kamala Harris and Meghan McCain in that spot together is really good for anything.
Right. And granted, they all ask a question on that show. They kind of go around the table and they each ask a show. So Mrs. Lee says, I think Meghan wanted a simple yes or no. Kristen says Meghan was rude. And look, like, there's definitely been circumstances in an interview where you're not totally prepared on every single point. I do think Meghan needed to have a little bit better understanding of what defund the police means. But also, too, she doesn't seem to listen to Kamala's first answer. Like, I actually thought Kamala was fairly succinct in what she was saying, at least setting up the idea, like, no, it's not about defunding. It's about, redistributing those funds that you're getting in. So it just seemed like a little bit Meghan completely ignored. Because even if she's saying, I don't really know what defund the police is, well, Kamala just gave you an explanation of what it was. So it just seemed a little bit Meghan didn't actually listen to what Kamala had just said.
Yeah, and it was funny hearing Sunny Hostin come in and be like, hey, guys, we're going to get to the next subject. Sunny wasn't having it. And my only sentiment about this conversation is stay with it. Y'all need to stay with it.